Nobody wants to hear this, but Nietzsche said it anyway. Most people are not living their lives. They are surviving them. They wake up. They follow the rules they were handed. They work for a future that never quite arrives. They avoid pain. They chase comfort. And somewhere, very quietly, they forget to actually ask, what is this life actually for? Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most misunderstood, most dangerous, most brilliant minds in human history, spent his entire life trying to answer that question. Not with comfort, not with reassurance, but with brutal, unrelenting honesty. And what he found, distilled into 10 rules, will either change the way you see everything or make you very, very uncomfortable. Either way, you needed to hear it. If this kind of thinking is what you came for, subscribe. We go this deep every single time. Let's begin.
Rule number 1. Stop waiting for someone to give your life meaning. In 1882, Nietzsche wrote 3 words that shook the entire Western world. God is dead. Now, before you react, this was not an atheist celebration. It was a warning. Nietzsche was saying that the old systems, religion, tradition, inherited morality, the frameworks that told people why they should get up in the morning, were collapsing. And in their place, nothing. A terrifying, wide-open nothing. Most people responded to this void by filling it with distractions. Nationalism, consumerism, entertainment, anything to avoid sitting with the question. Nietzsche said, do not look away. Sit in the void, then build your own meaning from the ground up. Not borrowed meaning, not inherited meaning. Yours. Earned. Real.
Rule number 2. Become who you actually are, not who you were told to be. Nietzsche had a phrase that sounds simple until you really sit with it. Become what you are. Think about how strange that is. Become what you already are? What does that mean? It means that most people spend their lives being a performance of themselves, shaped by parents, by culture, by the fear of what others will think, rather than discovering and fully inhabiting who they actually are underneath all of that. The process of becoming yourself is not comfortable. It requires looking honestly at everything you've adopted that was never truly yours. Every opinion you hold because you were told to. Every ambition you're chasing for someone else's approval. Every fear you've never examined. Stripping all of that away is not easy. It is the work of a lifetime. But it is the only work that actually matters.
Rule number 3. Stop running from pain. It is the only thing that makes you real.
Nietzsche watched the people around him dedicate their entire lives to comfort, to safety, to the avoidance of suffering. And he saw clearly, painfully clearly, that this was not wisdom. It was slow death. He wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This is perhaps the most quoted and most misunderstood line he ever wrote. People think it means be tough, push through, don't complain. But what Nietzsche actually meant was deeper. He meant that suffering, real suffering, is the forge. It is the fire in which character is made, empathy is made, wisdom is made. A life without suffering is not a good life. It is a shallow one. The question is not how to avoid pain. The question is whether your pain is making you or breaking you. Rule number 4. Stop following the herd. The herd is going nowhere interesting. Nietzsche had a concept he called herd morality. The idea that most people do not actually think for themselves. They adopt the values, the judgments, the likes and dislikes of the group, and then defend those borrowed beliefs as if they were deeply personal convictions. He wasn't being cruel. He was being diagnostic. The herd rewards conformity. It punishes difference. It calls mediocrity normal and calls excellence arrogant. And the person who truly wants to live fully, who wants to think for themselves, to pursue their own values, to go in a direction nobody else is going, must be willing to experience the discomfort of being misunderstood, of being alone, of being ahead. That discomfort is not a problem. It is the price of authenticity. Rule number 4. Stop following the herd. The herd is going nowhere interesting. Nietzsche had a concept he called herd morality. The idea that most people do not actually think for themselves. They adopt the values, the judgments, the likes and dislikes of the group, and then defend those borrowed beliefs as if they were deeply personal convictions. He wasn't being cruel. He was being diagnostic. The herd rewards conformity. It punishes difference. It calls mediocrity normal and calls excellence arrogant. And the person who truly wants to live fully, who wants to think for themselves, to pursue their own values, to go in a direction nobody else is going, must be willing to experience the discomfort of being misunderstood, of being alone, of being ahead. That discomfort is not a problem. It is the price of authenticity.
Rule number 5. Stop shrinking. Your will to grow is not selfish. It is your purpose. When people hear Nietzsche's phrase, will to power, they think of domination, aggression, control. They are wrong. What Nietzsche meant by will to power was something far more internal. It was the drive in every living thing to grow, to expand, to overcome. Not to overpower others, but to overpower your previous self. The student who pushes beyond what they thought they could learn. The artist who makes the work that terrifies them. The person who has the conversation they've been avoiding for years. All of these are expressions of will to power. And Nietzsche believed that when people suppress this drive, when they make themselves small to keep others comfortable,
something inside them curdles, turns to resentment, turns to envy, turns to that low, constant hum of a life unlived.
Rule number 6. Live as if you would choose to live this exact life again, forever. This is perhaps Nietzsche's most challenging idea. He called it eternal recurrence. Imagine that after you die, your life replays exactly as it was. Every choice, every moment of cowardice, every conversation you avoided, every dream you abandoned, every time you chose comfort over meaning. And then it replays again and again, infinitely. Nietzsche used this not as a metaphysical claim, but as the ultimate test. Would you be willing to live this life, this exact life, one more time? If the answer is no, then something needs to change. Not tomorrow, not when things are better. Now. This is the most honest mirror he ever held up, and most people cannot look into it for long.
Rule number 7. Check your resentment. It is quietly destroying you from the inside. Nietzsche had a word for one of the most dangerous psychological states a person can inhabit. He borrowed it from French, ressentiment. It means, roughly, a festering resentment, a deeply buried anger at the people you secretly envy but publicly condemn. It is the person who says they don't care about success, while burning with envy at those who have it. The person who calls ambition shallow because they are afraid to pursue their own. The person who tears down excellence in others because building their own feels impossible. Nietzsche considered ressentiment one of the most corrosive forces in human life, not because it is evil, but because it is dishonest. It disguises envy as virtue. It disguises fear as principle. It disguises weakness as moral superiority. And the person trapped in it never grows because they have convinced themselves that not growing is righteousness. Ask yourself honestly, where are you doing this?
Rule number 8. Stop inheriting your values. Examine them. Choose them, or they are not yours. Most people never question the values they live by. They absorb them from their parents, from their culture, from their religion, from the school system, from television. And they carry these values like furniture they never chose, arranged in a house they didn't design, in a life they're not sure they actually want. Nietzsche called this slave morality. Not a moral judgment, but a psychological one. The morality of people who have never asked why they believe what they believe. He contrasted this with what he called master morality. Not morality of cruelty or dominance, but morality that is self-offered, examined, chosen, owned. The difference between the two is the difference between a person who lives their values and a person who performs values they don't fully believe for an audience that isn't watching. What do you actually believe? Not what were you told. What have you chosen? Rule number 9. You are capable of more than you allow yourself to become. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, the overman, the beyond man,
is perhaps the most misused idea in philosophy. It was hijacked by ideologies Nietzsche himself despised. It was twisted into something about racial superiority. It was used to justify cruelty. This was a profound betrayal of what he meant. What Nietzsche actually meant by the Übermensch was simple and personal. It was the human being who has done the work, who has questioned their inherited values, who has faced their suffering without flinching, who has created meaning where none was given, who has become finally and fully themselves. Not a race, not a type, a direction, a becoming. And it is available to anyone willing to do the difficult, uncomfortable, relentlessly honest work of self-creation. Anyone, including you.
Rule number 10. Say yes to your life. All of it. The beauty and the devastation, both. This is the rule that contains all the others. Nietzsche called it Amor Fati, love of fate. Not resignation, not passive acceptance. Active, chosen, defiant love of everything that has happened and everything that will happen. The losses, the humiliations, the years that felt wasted, the relationships that broke you open, the moments you failed yourself. All of it. Because Nietzsche understood something that takes most people a lifetime to learn. That the desire for a different past is the single greatest waste of human energy. The past is not a mistake to be corrected. It is the foundation you are standing on. Say yes to it, build on it, and move forward.
Nietzsche died in 1900. He spent his final years in mental collapse, his mind broken by a disease that robbed him of the very instrument he had given everything to. And yet, the words he left behind have outlasted almost everything from his era. Not because they are comfortable, because they are true. 10 rules. 10 uncomfortable mirrors. Build your own meaning. Become who you are. Embrace your suffering. Leave the herd. Grow without apology. Live a life worth repeating. Examine your resentment. Choose your own values. Become more than you allow yourself. And say yes, fully, completely, to the life that is yours. Not the life you were given, the life you are building. That is what Nietzsche was asking for. That is what he was always asking for. If this video made you feel something, if one of these rules landed somewhere deep, please subscribe. Leave a comment with the rule that hit hardest, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. We go this deep every week. See you in the next one.